Well, hello there. Jay Baba.
Jay Baba.
I am Jack Richards. My wife is Rose, sister of Ann Ross, daughter of Josephine Ross, and I come to the family 37 and a half years ago. In my life, I chased Baba, but I didn't know who he was. I had been to places that Baba had been: Portofino, Italy, Sydney, Australia, the West Coast by Los Angeles. And I saw the film clips of Woodstock, the first Woodstock they had. I was in the service and didn't attend those things, couldn't have because of where I was. But I saw Baba's picture everywhere. And who is he? Is he a rock star? He's got to be somewhere. We got to know who he is. And it took me a long, long time to find out until I met Rose, and I came to her house, and she's got the pictures with the same guy. You know, don't worry, be happy. And I've been seeing him all over my life. Well, why? Who is he? Tell me who it is. You've got more pictures of him than you got of me. So she told me that, you know, he was Meher Baba, and gave me a couple of one of the discourses and a couple other books that she had. And I didn't read them entirely. I glanced through them. And I said, well, you know, that's good. And she wanted to go to the center and never had been in Myrtle Beach. And so her sister was coming and her friend wanted to go. She's asked me, can I go? I said, well, sure you can go. Oh, yeah. So she went. She told me about some of the experiences she had when she was here. And she told me that she wanted to go again. So she went, and some of the girls went with them. And they got there and they told me about their experiences. And so a couple of years later, I says, could I go with you? She says, yes. So every time I've been to the center, it's been an experience. There's been something that's happened that makes it memorable. And my father says, will you take my van? I wanted to see how it goes on a long trip. I said, okay. So we did. We got to, our youngest son, Kenneth, came with us. We got to North Carolina, and the engine started making a lot of noise in it, and it was going bad. We got a truck and towed it to Myrtle Beach, left it at their sister's place, and stayed on the center. But that made it memorable. Now we got something. I'll never forget the van trip. So the first time on the center, we go in the lagoon cabin, and I sit down in the chair and say, okay, I'll just sit here for a few minutes and see what's going on and look at some of the books in front of the couch, and then all of a sudden my brain went totally quiet. I usually think of all sorts of stuff all the time. Even when I'm reading a book, I got something going on in the back of my mind, and it was blank. And all I could see was this picture of Bobby sitting in a chair, and I'm looking at him, and he's moving. And then he changed. He's not in a chair. He's standing up. Then I keep looking, and I don't. That's all I think of. What's he doing? How is he doing this and this thing? And we were there 20 minutes, a half hour, and then I had to sit down. It was, just exhausting me. I closed my eyes, and then I get nothing, but I hear little things like suggestions to me. This just my mind working now. It's just going. But when I don't remember the first suggestion, except we play music, and he's continue with your music, but the purpose is now we have to touch one heart at a time, and I thought, wow, that's good to think, you know. I'm thinking this. So when we did wake up and start, I was kind of in a daze, and I eased out. I looked in the shoes for critters, and put my shoes on, and I didn't say much. And we walked over by the little benches there by the kitchen, the original kitchen, and Rose says to me, well, what did you think? I said, well, I don't know what to think. I'm kind of scared about going back in there because my mind quit. She giggled like she is now, and I said, did you get any messages? She said, well, I guess it says, with our music, touch one heart at a time. Well, she'd gotten the same message, unbeknownst to me, and so now every time I go into Lagoon Cabin, I know Bob is there. That's when Baba came to me, and I do what you want me to do, Baba. Yes, and whatever you tell me, I'll do it. But we were here, and we were staying at the Twin Bee Cabin, the old one, and we go to the thing on Friday night at the meeting hall. And on the way back, we stop in the Lagoon Cabin, and we go over and we sit down and we play cards. Well, we enjoy playing cards with each other. She cheats, but that's okay. I let her cheat. But actually, she doesn't cheat. But she beats me. She got to cheat. She said, "Did you get anything while you was in the Lagoon Cabin?" I said, "Well, the only thing I got was go to the ocean." And she looked at me very surprised. She says, "I got that message, but we can't go to the ocean. It's after dark. We're not supposed to go." Now it's 10:30, but it was awfully strong. And we sat there a little bit, and maybe we should go. Because, Baba tells us to do that, follow what he says. And we went to the ocean. We drove down the road and parked and walked out on the beach. Deserted, with the exception of a young couple. It's young, in their early 20s. And this other guy that looked, almost like a vagabond, and staying back in the shadows along the dunes where you couldn't see him and stuff. And you see they were coming toward us. And he was kind of like talking to them, something. And they got up by us, and we said, "Well, good evening." And they, of course, surprised you. You don't usually see people on the beach, I guess. But they said, talking. That was their first time to Myrtle Beach, and they're staying down here. And the guy, by the time I look back at him, he's gone. He's on his way away from where we were. And as they go on up the beach, we think, well, what was the purpose of them coming? It might have been that purpose. Okay, so we went back to the cabin and played cards. Was it our purpose? We don't really know, but it sure could have been. Or maybe we just wanted to see if we had listened to him and go to the beach. But we had our youngest son was getting ready to want to go in the service. I talked to him about that. He was been to college, and he was just kind of floundering and not have any direction. And I said, well, the Navy and the Army isn't good for you, but the Air Force might be good. You'll learn some structure, and so he was thinking about that. But then he had his glands and stuff in his neck and on his shoulder, under his arm, were all swollen up and very, very hard. And we figure he's got some real sad disease that he's not going to the service, and I don't know what it is. And we took him to a doctor, and he had something, he called it, and they were going to do some more tests. Well, my work, I traveled, and I don't usually play the radio, even when we're together in the car. It's much more enjoyable to think of things and talk and see the world. When I'm alone, I might think of things, and then I say something to Baba and wait for a response. Usually I didn't get it in the car. But I worked where I had to and stayed at a motel overnight up in Maine. And I had a terrific dream, very vivid and alive. Baba was there with me in that room, and telling me that I have to touch my right hand onto our son, and look at my hand, and now I've got the very picture of Baba, which I don't really see the one that I had, but it was right here in the palm of my hand, and I look at it and I see Baba, and I said, well, this I don't understand. What's that going to do? To do as I ask you. And then Baba left. And I turned the light on, and I can see it, still see the picture of Baba in my hand. Am I going crazy? Maybe I am. But it helps me. But as I go home the next day, I think, I'm supposed to touch Kenny with his hand, and now I'm protecting him. I don't want anything, I be careful when I drive. I don't shift too hard with it and don't damage this picture. And when I got home, Kenny was there. The first thing I do, I talk to Kenny, I put my hand on it. And on all the spots where he had his glands are swollen, and telling him, that I saw Baba in the hotel room in Maine. And he was quite receptive to that. And I says, now what I want you to do is just sit down and relax and just think of any good thing you've ever had related with Baba. And he did that. We went to see the doctor 2 days later, it was the next checks, and all his glands were nothing wrong with him. Everything was, it was like, it just disappeared with thyroids and lymph nodes, and so the doctor said, well, I can't understand it. He's gone. It's gone. Whatever he had is gone. That's never happened. Now he's worried. Well, I can understand it, but I can't explain it to you right now. And Kenneth did go on with that. He did go in the service. Spent 5 years in the Air Force, and a credit all to Baba wanting him to go on. And but it was, I think it helped me with a stronger connection to Kenny than he had. Kenny was kind of aloof and didn't want to really attach to anyone. In fact, he fired Mother for a while because he didn't need a mother anymore until he got appendicitis. So that bonded Kenny and I tremendously, and that might have been the whole purpose of the whole thing, to let Kenny bond with me. That everything I do is Baba's in my mind. Baba's in my life. We look at it. We got pictures of him. We give little pocket angels out to people, and It's not that it's a denominational thing. It's an angel. Every religion or every person has had angels in their background, in their beliefs. And there's been people that have been so sad and give them an angel, and they're so cheered up. Even people that aren't sad, we give them an angel and they're cheered up. I give a lot of them to Vietnam veterans, even active military, policemen, sheriff departments. It's just, it's like, I think that they do it, J-Bob, just mentally, and they accept it so very well. All the time, if we've ever been given angels out, we've probably given over 3,000 of them away by now. 2 people have not wanted to accept them. And it was strange. One was a cashier in a store, like something that could have been Walmart or something like that. Not that I'm not advertising for anybody, but another one was a waitress, and no, it was a woman on a plane, and they flew, and she seemed very good, but no, she wouldn't accept the angel, and don't force it, okay? So, but everywhere we go, something tells us Baba, something reminds us. I don't even, of course, here we always stop at the center once a year, and people all over, before we're even here, I said, where are you going? Well, we're going to be at the center over here, the Mayhair Center. Oh, they wanted to know if they could go over there. Is that open? Yeah. Well, you have to sign in and sign up for a tour. A lot of people talk to us about, and it opens up others' hearts. So, Baba is still telling me to do things. He told me once, though, in the Lagoon Cabin, okay, you've done everything I've asked you to do. I'm not going to ask you to do anything else. Whatever you do now is on your own. It's all up to you. Okay, Baba. That. Even, things he told me to help with, you've done what you're supposed to, you've done your part. I can't help it. And my mother never talked about Baba or anything, but when I was a kid, she was telling me about a bunch of her friends and stuff wanted to, they read in the Schenectady newspaper, Schenectady, New York, about a holy man going to be in New York City, and they said, well, let's go down and see him. Well, the only way from Mechanicsville to New York is either by car or train. Back then, and they didn't have a lot of money. Everything they had, if a nickel went toward food, but this one older guy, he was 16 or 18 or 19. He worked for a guy that probably did some things a little illegal, but he let him take his car, one of his cars, and they drove to New York City. And my mother didn't get close, and she just told me later that we saw him. We were in a bunch of people, and he was, they were just crowded around him, but they looking at him. He was a holy man. He moved like he didn't even step, and he was all dressed in white, and he was like he's full of light. He was like glowing around him, and they didn't get to see him or touch him. Well, they didn't get to greet him or touch him, but they did spend some time there, and then they all drove back and talking about it. And I remember as a kid, my mother talking about having gone there, and when she had met Rose and we got talking about telling Rose about it, and she'd come over to our house. I lived next door, so. But she saw the picture of Baba standing, and that's the man I saw in New York. And Baba was young in that picture. And so she was excited. She never had a wish or never asked if she could come to the center or ask any more about Baba, but it was like a push to me to find out more. And so I remember she sometimes would sit down and talk about that trip several times in her life. I was probably first 8, 9 years old. And I think it was when my grandmother, it was about 1951, when my grandmother was going to die, dying, and my mother was taking care of her. And we'd go down there and sit with her, and she'd tell us things that happened to her, story and in her life. The clipping was in the paper of Schenectady, the same clipping I think that Darwin Shaw saw. I talked to him about it a little bit, and it was the same time. And Darwin Shaw come from Lake Luzerne, that's where he was born. I went to school with some of his relatives, and younger than him, of course. And I think my father knew Darwin Shaw, and he seemed like the family knew who he was when I spoke to him after we met Rose, Darwin, and oh yeah, like yeah, we know him, but it's there was no escaping. I've got to get to Baba. He's going to push me there somehow or another. He's wrapping his arms around me and giving me a little hug and a little guidance toward here till finally I got here to the center. And I knew that this is what was going to happen. This is what I was waiting for. And all of my life, I had this. Well, once I'm here now, what am I going to do now? Oh, but he's got me doing so much. And but all our children have been here. And we'll keep coming. It's such an experience just to be in the area. We have a different feeling. When we get down here, I used to not take naps. The first time I come down, I took naps. I said, oh, I'm tired. I just got to lay down and take a nap. And every time we stayed on the center, we'd get naps. It'd be so relaxed. So nothing to worry about. Life is great. So, but here we are, Jai Baba.